Welcome to Sonic.exe Explained, a new series I'm starting with this video where I go over EXEs and other Sonic oddities. My overviews of these characters, stories, and games will be fully impartial, but if you're looking for my thoughts on any of these characters, I've hired Canon to speak on my behalf at the end of these videos. If you'd like to suggest an EXE to be covered in this series, join my Discord server below and make a suggestion. Anyways, on with the video. In 2011, JC the Hyena created Sonic.exe, an infamously crappy creepypasta. As time went on, others tried their hand at rewriting the story to make something good of it. And in the year 2026, we've come so much farther than that original creepypasta. This is a video to explain all the past and present canon versions of the story and character of Sonic.exe. Of course, no one actually owns the concept of Sonic.exe, but certain creators who had ties to JC the Hyena, or someone endorsed by him, took it upon themselves to develop the idea and bring the community together with their creations. So I believe that is what canon or official refers to in this sense. Because I'll be going over many stories in this video, I'll not be going completely in depth for all of them, more so just giving an overview to explain the story and characters featured. I'll also have timestamps throughout the video for each EXE I cover, so feel free to skip to those parts you're interested in if you don't want to watch the whole thing. If you'd like to learn more about the characters past my brief explanations, I'll link their wiki and the creators' socials down in the description. Alright, with that needlessly long intro out the way, let's take a look at some sloppy EXEs. I'll start off by summarizing the original story created by JC the Hyena back in 2011. Skip ahead to this timestamp on screen if you're familiar and want to learn about the current canon. So I'd recommend sticking around if you don't know some of the concepts covered in these original stories, because a lot of the future canons would adapt and retake the concepts found here. The creepypasta is about a guy named Tom who receives an ominous CD and letter from his friend Kyle who says he must destroy the disc. Tom completely ignores this warning and plays the game regardless, after which he realizes there's something really wrong with it. He picks tails and boots into Hill Act 1 and he notices oddities like the character select, nothing but flat ground for 5 minutes, and bloody flickies which have been killed in sadistic ways. Eventually he runs into Sonic with his back turned, and when he gets closer, it reveals itself to be a demonic, bloody-eyed version of Sonic. Ooh, and asks this iconic line, "Do you want to play with me?" Sonic then chases and kills Tails, bullies and kills Knuckles, and after a short break where Tom has a dream about this evil Sonic, Eggman's section plays out similarly, going down a flight of stairs in what appears to be a castle before running into the evil Sonic. However, at the moment Sonic appears to Eggman, instead of a death, Tom is confronted with a so-called hyper-realistic image of Sonic's face, with the phrase "I am God" boldly displayed. After that, it's implied that Sonic is inside Tom's room in the form of a Sonic doll with bloody eyes. And that's how the original creepypasta ends. Sonic.exe Round 2 is a direct continuation of the original story, written in the format of a diary being read by the late protagonist's boss. We follow a police detective named Derek Green and his sister as they investigate a string of murders, all connected by the victims owning computers with data relating to the Sonic.exe game on them. There's also a prominent and malicious group known as the Cult of X who serve as the antagonists of the story. In this story, we learn that when Sonic, or X as he's called, steals someone's soul, he etches a number on their chest signifying what order he victimizes people in. And through this, we find out that Tom and Kyle were not the first or last deaths. When Derek learns too much in this investigation, the chief officer at the police station lays him off the case, but he's still able to get information through his old boss, who he's friends with. As Derek and his sister continue their investigation into the murders, Derek's sister falls victim to the game, prompting Derek to eventually play the game himself, which has a new set of victims from the original: Shadow, Sally, and Rouge, who's implied to be the vessel which Derek's sister has been placed into. The Sally victim in this story, who gets her eyes sewn shut and told by X that he loves her, is what sparked the story of Sally.exe and Sally.alt, which I'll cover later in the video. Anyway, back to Round 2. Derek eventually gets a tip from a good person in the Cult of X who tells him that the cult is evil and that he must destroy the game, which serves as a portal to X's dimension, and that X intends to cross over and take over Earth with the help of the cult. It's implied that the reason Derek got laid off the case is because the chief police officer, who was in possession of the Sonic.exe game disc, was also part of the cult. This is because Derek writes one last diary entry declaring that he will steal the game from the chief police officer's office, and after that he disappears. Derek's former boss, who was friends with of him and his sister has been reading the diary the whole time, and he received an email with an audio tape showing us Derek's fate. He was captured by the Cult of X, and despite managing to destroy the disc, it was revealed that there were many more copies being handed out to potential victims by the cult, and everything Derek did was for naught. At the end of the story, they play the game in front of Derek so that X may drag Derek's soul into the game. I didn't mention it earlier, but this is also the story that X's guardians originate from, though they play no role here and are only mentioned once as being entities made as part of X imbued with human emotions. They help manage X's vast realm. Sonic.exe 2 is a recently discovered piece of previously lost media. The story was made before Round 2 as a sequel to the original story and was seemingly forgotten by JC the Hyena after it was removed from the Creepypasta wiki. It follows Crystal, a friend of Kyle and Tom, as she investigates the Sonic.exe game disc after her friend's mysterious deaths. She plays the game and sees more victims die until she finds that she can actually chat with the Sally vessel through a text box. Upon Sally's death, where her eyes and mouth are sewn shut, Crystal closes the game and takes a nap. She has a dream where she is strapped to a chair with Sonic.exe drilling into her head and lobotomizing her. When Crystal wakes up through the text box, Sally manipulates Crystal into ripping the contents of the game disc and dumping them on the internet for all to freely download, as a way to supposedly get X to leave her be. Crystal foolishly does so, and unwittingly unleashes Sonic.exe upon the entire internet, free to terrorize anyone he wants and harvest the souls of anyone unlucky enough to be found by him on the internet. Supposedly, after witnessing the success of Nightmare Beginnings, JC returned to the Sonic.exe community, and in 2017, JC rebooted his canon with Sonic.exe the Remake. This story follows Tom and his college friends as they investigate the murder of Kyle and others around them, being aided by Detective Derek. Throughout the story, they're eventually ensnared in a trap by the Cult of X and captured by X himself, who's a bit more of a cocky and sadistic character in this story, who uses a puppet to mock his victims, probably a callback to the doll from the original story. Although only part 1 of this story was completed before JC the Hyena left the internet, many scenes and concepts from this story have since been adapted into the other canons, such as the Desolate City, adapted in Subterfuge, the way Tails is killed, adapted in the original Sonic prototype 2017, and the seemingly AI-generated environments adapted in Sonic Awakening. Additionally, JC assisted in the creation of Lord X and Xenophanes' stories and characters, so they also shared similarities and concepts from the 2017 remake and earlier versions of JC's canon. And that concludes JC's canons. Now, on to the current canons, and towards the end I'll touch on the other outdated canons as well. The current official canons of Sonic.exe are all classified under what's called the X-verse, which includes projects that are still actively being worked on. Our first game, which is at the core of many other stories, is Sonic 2011. Please keep in mind that almost none of these stories have been finished, so all the information in this video may not be accurate or up to date when you watch. Sonic 2011 is a complete rewrite and remake of the original Sonic.exe by Joe Doughboy, who is widely considered the current owner of Sonic.exe, featuring the character referred to as the community by 2011X. Sonic 2011 is a video game where you play as Alan, Dave, and Paul, who are human beings stuck in the game, forced into the vessels of Sonic characters, Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman respectively. They go through the twisted levels of the entity X's game until they're found and brutally tortured by X. After X catches them, Alan is beaten up, Dave gets transformed into this, and Paul, we don't see Paul again. It's implied that Paul's soul was erased from existence when he was swallowed by X's gaping mouth, likely because he was a boring victim in comparison to Alan, who reacts excessively by crying, or Dave, who struggles to fight back. The version of X in this game, referred to as 2011X metatextually, can be considered the base form of Sonic.exe. As in lore, he's in his infancy here, having newly acquired victims to play with and a realm he's not quite used to. X is an entity born from the void, who has a twisted fascination with humanity in the Sonic series, mixing the two to create sadistic games using the vessels fueled and brought to life by his friends, who are souls stolen and deemed to be fun by X. From what I could suss out from my research, he collects the souls, but he doesn't bother to put all of them into vessels, leaving some of them as dying, drying, rotting corpses. The game Sonic.exe is actually a portal to his dimension. Joe Doughboy has released some comics of both Sonic 2011 and Soulless Sonic, which is the sequel series of games to Sonic 2011, which I would highly recommend checking out. There are some amazing dubs of these comics which really bring out the visceral pain depicted. I'll link them in the description and I highly recommend checking them out, as they're what sparked my personal interest in this character. These comics serve as teasers and lore exposition for the world of Joe Doughboy's EXE, while we wait for the Soulless Sonic series to release. As I mentioned, Sonic 2011 is the basis for many other stories considered official, so next I'll be going over those. Sometime between the events of Sonic 2011 and Soulless Sonic, X experiments with creating life and he succeeds. X is unsatisfied with the being he created, but it's too powerful to be killed, so he banishes it to another realm instead. That being, known as EXE or Faker, grows up hateful and resentful of his creator, and he works to grow his strength to one day reach X once more and make him suffer for what he did. EXE is most well known for his Faker form, featuring less features than Sonic, such as no stripes and no buckles on the shoes, fur-colored arms, separated eyes with a protruding brow that gives him a constantly angry look, and no mouth in the little form. In a flash, he can shapeshift into the beast form, which features a scar on his eye, desaturates his skin, and makes him really tall. In his lore, his realm is a facade to lure souls into the world, where they're stored inside his black sun. Occasionally, souls can leak out and drop down, being given the forms of Sonic characters from the assets of the world. EXE is set to appear in the game Sonic Prototypes 2017, which will be a 3D Sonic Jam inspired game. We currently have the full soundtrack and character models showing us what the game will look like, alongside concept art showing us the levels and environments. This canon and the game is still being worked on, and we have very little information, but I'll be sure to let you know when we get more news on the project. Soulless PC Sonic is the name of the series of games featuring Lord X by Joe Doughboy. This is the canonical future of the X we know from Sonic 2011. Soulless PC Sonic is split into multiple games, starting with the highly anticipated Sonic PC, formerly Sonic PC Port Remake, which features Alan, who's returning from Sonic 2011, Dave to some capacity as we see him in the trailer and then the lore speed paint, Alice, and an unnamed Amy vessel who gets turned into a tree, and another unnamed Amy vessel who we don't know the name of just yet, but it seems like it's going to be revealed pretty soon. She accompanies Alan and has appeared in a few lore comics. The second game in the series is called The Second Disc, and it features Julie, who's a Knuckles vessel who ventures together with a Sonic vessel we don't know the name of. In a lore speed paint, we see Julie doubting the identity of the Sonic vessel after they get separated and lost in what appears to be a sewer, with the Sonic vessel trying to convince Julie that he isn't X, as X glares at them both behind this sewage water. The third game in the series will be called Sonic Redux, and we don't know much about it outside of the fact that it will probably feature Alice's father as the Eggman vessel, as he fights and probably fails to rescue Alice, who is his child who has been lured into the game and kidnapped by X, and is now kept as a trophy for her father to agonize over, as X slowly decays her mind and sense of self. The final game in the series is just called Soulless Sonic, and will presumably be the finale where Lord X is defeated, though we genuinely know very little about these last 3 entries, as more info is yet to be revealed by Joe Doughboy, and not a single one of these games has come out yet. What we do know is, in this continuity, Lord X creates the Guardians, who are similar and heavily inspired by what JCD Hyena had in Round 2. They are Kito, Keno, Kofuku, Gekido, Zetsubo, Kyofu, and Yokubo, representing prayer, disgust, joy, anger, despair, fear, and pride respectively. These are interesting characters who have fun interactions with each other in the Q&A, which I'll link in the description, though I won't spend time in this video covering them. Perhaps I might do it in another video in the future, after we get some more information. You might also notice on this timeline sheet that I've got Sonic PC port listed near Lord X's game, but grayed out. This is because this is the first game Lord X ever appeared in, which was made for Luigi Kid's Creepypasta Game Challenge. Though the game itself is not considered canon anymore, it is still where the character got his start, and it still houses some iconic scenes and lines. I've got so much more I want to say about this character, like how he has an official music album which is surprisingly really good, or how he has so much cool side content like what if scenarios. For example, appearances in the FNF mod hit single, showing what would happen if he came to the real world and terrorized his creator for a chance to continue living, or if he was stuck in a situation where his vessel couldn't continue to support his existence, and he'd be forced back into the void with his chud son, playing chess for all eternity. But those are all topics for another day. See the outro of the video for more details, but for now, we'll move on to the alternate path that would lead to Lord X never existing. Previously called Sonic 2 Special, Sonic 2 Genesis and Gaiden are a what-if spin on Sonic 2011, where instead of Paul possessing the Eggman vessel who was erased from existence in the third level of the game, it's instead a malicious and powerful entity known as Bandado who confronts X, and ends up stealing X's powers, victims, and his realm. In the follow-up game, Sonic 2 Gaiden, which is this timeline's equivalent of the Soulless PC Sonic series, X is still alive and known as Lord Mortis, and with the help of a Sonic vessel called Tom, they confront Bandado and his army. Bandado is a self-righteous entity who believes that instead of toys, the human souls sucked into his realm would work better as soldiers in an army meant to rule their land. He is insane and an egomaniac, but we don't know much aside from that yet. Bandado's enemy, Lord Mortis, will help the player in Sonic 2 Gaiden, restraining his sadistic tendencies and having matured from the humiliation he suffered at the hands of Bandado. Lord Mortis has matured into a less terrifying and more guiding presence for the human souls in Bandado's world. After his powers were stolen, he was burnt by Bandado and couldn't regenerate, leaving his vessel constantly decaying and going through perpetual rigor mortis, hence the name. Now you might have noticed this entity when I was talking about Bandado's army and Lord Mortis helping humans. Instead of Lord X's guardians, Bandado takes the human souls and morphs them into what's called the annexes. So far, from some lore comics and Twitter posts, we know that there are 3 main annexes, being Tails, Knuckles, and Metal Sonic. The Tails annex is a being called Thanatos. It is the result of a horde experiment by Bandado to fuse a void entity with a human soul, this one being the soul of the same Alan we play as in Sonic 2011. The experiment ended up wearing away the human soul and decaying his vessel, leaving it skeletal, charred, and on the brink of death, but never quite able to die. The Knuckles annex is called Kenos, and is a twisted fusion between the human souls of Kyle, Dave, and a void entity. The Metal Sonic annex is called Immortuos, and is sometimes called the son of Bandado because he was made using a piece of Bandado without a human soul to fuse with. It is said that Immortuos is the closest annex with Bandado, and works as a second in command. Bandado likes to take a backseat and let these annexes do the work of chasing and fighting humans for him, so they're likely going to be the main enemies in Sonic 2 Gaiden when that comes out. I'll keep track of any news regarding this project in the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing Sonic 2 Gaiden become a game. Now, still considered part of the X-verse, but disconnected from Sonic 2011 or any of its branch stories, 2017X, including its current incarnation, Sonic in quotation marks, began as a retake of the original 2017 remake of Sonic.exe. This version of the character is very similar in aspects to the 2017 remake's X. He still has the pale skin, the separated eyes, the fur-colored arms, hands and feet, and he sports uncanny teeth. The original X donned the form of Sonic out of a fascination with the character and his victims' relationships with the character, but 2017X takes this concept to the extreme. The broken face is a being who has deluded himself by playing the role for so long that he actually believes he is Sonic. Even his realm has shifted to accommodate this roleplay, reflecting environments from the late 2000s Sonic games like Sonic 06 and Unleashed, often referred to as the Dark Age. He's a fanatic of the Sonic series and will make his vessels play along, though it's said that he's not very good at picking up on the core personality traits of the character. He'll gaslight and manipulate his victims into forcefully, sometimes violently playing their role, and he'll threaten them by, perhaps contrary to his wishes, subconsciously revealing a form closer to his truth, a face made of broken parts, shattered like glass. At the end of Subterfuge, his Friday Night Funkin' mod set to appear in Sonic Legacy, he chokes out Tails and laughs sadistically, showing he's willing to kill off his playmates and possibly replace them. This iteration of 2017X has also appeared in the game Garn 47, which came bundled with the hit single FNF mod. Here, while Subterfuge with lyrics plays, he chases the player who controls Tails in a reenactment of a scene from the 2017 remake, where the fire closes in and you manage to escape. Sadly, because of internal drama in the development team, the character and section of the game were removed entirely in later versions of Garn 47. This character himself has also been largely discontinued, being replaced by the version to appear in Sonic Awakening by Alepie, though Broken Face 2017X will still appear in the Sonic Legacy FNF mod, as I mentioned before. After Raven lacked interest in developing the character of 2017X, she handed him to Alepie, who now calls the character Sonic in quotation marks. This iteration of the character is completely different from Broken Face. Alepie reveals information in Twitter posts and newsletters for Sonic's project, Sonic Awakening. From these we can glean that Sonic's world is akin to something AI generated, attempting to conform to a prompt and occasionally leading to uncanny irregularities, as we can see in Sonic's common appearance. We can see that just like the first 2017X, he has no shoes or gloves. Here he has individual toes, and more toes and fingers generating in places they really shouldn't be. His eyes are lifeless, and where Sonic always has a grin on his face no matter where the camera is looking thanks to a camera trick in the games, it seems whatever AI is generating Sonic has failed to recognize that trick and just left Sonic with 2 mouths. This world will feature more characters as seen in the concept art, and Ailpie has expressed his affection towards their models, so we can look forward to the reveal of that possibly sometime soon. I'll link the Awakening newsletters in the description so you can read up for yourself on this character, and let's see where he'll go from here. Archive Y2K07024 is the continuity featuring Xenophanes by Shay, whom you may know from the Versus Sonic.exe FNF mod. His appearance in that mod is just for fun and not canonical, but here's his canonical look, including a human form which I believe is unique to Xenophanes. Archive is a working title, however there is a website of the same name managed by Shay, which has some lore insights from the character Alice, who's said to be an acquaintance of Xenophanes in some way. Although this canon has been recently cancelled, what I could find out was that he came from a meteor that landed on Earth, hence the crystal-like formations on his body, and he has no soul, so he likes to play with the souls of others, perhaps to learn more about them. In fairness, he does seem to be a curious creature, as in a script, he forces someone who has been removed from their body to then dissect their body for Xenophanes' observation. On screen are some quotes written by Shay for him. As I said, this canon was recently discontinued, but the character of Xenophanes will continue without the association with Sonic.exe. So if you're interested in that, feel free to join Shay's Discord server, which I'll link in the description. Back in the day, JC approved and endorsed a variety of fan projects and takes on the character, which are also now considered old legacy canons in some way. I'm not going to read out all of what I wrote for these canons, but I have written stuff for you guys to get a general understanding of them, so they'll be on screen now. Alright everyone, You've now reached the end of the overviews, and here come the opinions. Skip to the outro if you don't want to hear my last words on the subject. Can and Jolly will take it from here.
How we doing, mate? Right then, let's crack on, shall we? Won't be long now. JC's original creepypasta was complete shite. It's not exactly a hot take, but these are laughably bad, and the dialogue's a complete joke. The remake's a bit better, but still bad. We got no reason at all to care about these side characters, and it feels like JC wrote the setting to have everyone in this bloody universe all be mega fans of Sonic the Hedgehog. Overall, JC's canons get a crappy 3 out of 10. We can still do worse, just you ain't, mate. Let me tell you a story. When I heard there was an official remake of Sonic.exe done by Joe, I was a wee bit hyped. When I sat down to play 2011, it was total bollocks. They changed niche. No actual gameplay aside from an optional and really shite parkour stage that changes nothing in the game's progression. The visuals and sprites look nice at least. The real highlight of Joe's canon is Soulless, and all the comics and teasers we got, along with the PC port remake demo we got years back. Gotta say, I fucking rate this canon solely because of the comics and art. 8 out of 10, only because 2011 is shy, but we've not gotten any Soulless games yet to judge them properly. If you know me, you know I love a bit of Faker. Love this design, hate his law. The fact that he can't speak English is an immense Ouroboros. What a bloody bum. 7 out of 10 because I love him like my son, but he's got absolutely no content yet. We're fucking starving. I think the annexes are more interesting than Bandado himself. I mean, we know fuck all about this guy. Lord Mortis helping the player seems cool, but we just know so little that I can't say much so far, other than I'm looking forward to it. 5 out of 10. You've got to try harder to appeal to me. I love me some 2017X. Probably the most unique and differentiated EXE of this bunch. From what we've seen so far, he's gonna be a good time. 7 out of 10. He's just gotta prove himself in time, innit? He's a crystal twink. 6 out of 10. As for the rest of the older canons, they're all shite. I don't like them. All of them can get a 1 out of 10. Real bottom of the barrel stuff here in my thoughts.
Thank you, Jolly. And with that, we can end the video there. I just want to say one last thing. Going forward, I plan to cover any upcoming news about these official EXE canons, as I'm interested in seeing them continue and grow. As I mentioned before, if you'd like to suggest an EXE for me to cover in one of these videos, let me know on Discord or in the comments and I'll consider it. Thank you genuinely for watching to the end. It means a lot to me because I spent a lot of time writing the script for this video to be as informative as possible while wasting as little of your time as possible. So I hope it was effective and maybe even sparked your interest in one of these stories. I wish for Sonic.exe Explained to become a long series where I cover tons of characters, so hopefully I get to fulfill that dream while dealing with uni work. Have a good day. Remember out.
Make sure to subscribe, yeah?